is like whatever the rate of vaccine injury is, like whatever that number is, and maybe it's not that high, it's something. Okay, it is clearly something, right?
Yes. With all drugs,
clearly there have been a large number of people who have been injured by the vaccine, and then when you look at that and you go, look, and you guys, your position, the entire establishment position was everyone should get it.
Yeah.
Everyone should get it. When there were clearly cases where you really don't have an argument, you know, like a healthy young person who's already had COVID, there's just no argument that they should take on whatever that risk is for something that won't even prevent them from getting COVID again, right? There's no argument for that. But you enforce that on them. You know, you enforce, like I know, I knew this kid who was like in grad school, and he got double vaccinated because they were going to kick him out of school if he didn't. And then he got COVID. And then a month later, they insisted he get a booster. Like there is no expert on the planet who can give me a compelling scientific answer, reason why that made any sense at all. Why you were doing anything other than to this 26-year-old kid, making him take on serious risk.
Well,
nothing better. And you insisted on this. So now, like, it's just crazy that you can't even acknowledge that. Like, yeah, we did give people, in many cases, very bad medical advice that had the potential to lead to them being injured.
Yeah, and in many cases did.
Yeah.
And no accountability.
And even, I mean, it was one of the craziest moments of the entire pandemic was when you had Dr. Gupta from CNN on here, and then he goes, so are you going to get vaccinated? And you went, no, I just had COVID. Like, why would I get it? And he really had no answer. And this was during the vaccine passport time when they were trying to force everyone to get it. And yet here was the CNN doctor and had no response other to you than, you got pretty good immunity. Maybe get some more with the vaccine. You know?
Well, not only that, he was just like, he had to admit that the immunity that was imparted by overcoming an infection is better.
Yeah. So
you didn't get COVID. I got COVID. I recovered. I'm in a better position than you now. And you're telling me to do what you did?
Right.
Why?
And that the policy of the vaccine passports is that he can enter a restaurant that you're not allowed to enter now. When we all agree that you're in a better position than him.
Right.
How does that make any sense?
Because I didn't comply and I'm a bad boy.
Yep.
That's what it is.
That's basically it.
That's literally what it is. Like, you should be a good guy and join our team.
Yep.
You know, and I had smart people that I respect tell me I should get vaccinated after I got over COVID. I'm like, are you not paying attention to any of this? Like, why are you giving me that advice? First of all, imagine if someone got something and they got sick and they got over it and then saying, you can't do it that way. You should do it another way. And you have to do it our way.
And you got over it very quickly, too.
Very quickly.
It's not like you were, like, hospitalized or something like that.
Dude, I did 10 rounds on the bag 6 days after I was infected.
Yeah.
10 rounds. Just to see what it felt like. Felt great. Yeah. Felt like zero impact. I felt like shit for a day.
And it's so, I mean, I know, like, I think we mentioned this before when I was on, but it was one of the episodes that I was on, which back in the height of it, I don't know, like 3 times ago that I was out here, what was the one that went to Fauci, responded to you. And the thing that they found appalling was that your advice to young people was to be really healthy.
Yeah.
That you were like, listen, get yourself in really good shape. Like, exercise a lot, eat well, get a lot of sunlight if you can. If you can't, take vitamin D. You know what I mean? Like, but all this stuff.
They were upset that I was saying if you're a young person, you're like 21 years old or whatever, don't do it. I don't think you need to do it.
No, your advice was I wouldn't advise you to get the vaccine. I'd tell you just be really healthy.
But that was at the time when we actually knew the statistics of how it affected young people.
And at the same time, Fauci was going door to door, and what he was telling people was, you got to take this vaccine. And when they'd give him pushback and say, yeah, but I heard you can still get COVID even after you take the vaccine, and he'd say, in the unlikely event that you get it, it's going to be so mild you won't even know you were sick. Just lying to them. Yeah. And that's not like, oh, he got it wrong. There was no scientific evidence to like argue that. They never even tested it on transmission.
Not only that, when you go over the trials that they did when they first were investigating the efficacy of this drug, one of the people in the COVID group that got the vaccine died of COVID. Yeah. So they knew that.
Yep. Yep.
2 people in the placebo group died of COVID.
So that's 100%.
That's how they came up with the fact.
100%
It
effective.
sounds so crazy, and I didn't believe it when RFK Jr. was saying it. I didn't believe that that was accurate. But then he actually sent me the real paperwork, and you read it, and you go, wow, that's really what it was. There was 2 people that died in the placebo group. 1 person died in the vaccinated group. And 2 is 100% more than 1.
Yep.
So that's how it's
how they got the
100% effective in stopping death.
And so this guy Tom Woods, I don't know if you've ever heard of Tom Woods before. He's a brilliant historian. He does a podcast called The Tom Woods Show. Great guy, good friend of mine. And he was like one of the loudest anti-lockdown voices back when the lockdown started, and like did a great job of like putting together all the data and all the arguments on how this isn't actually working and it's like an insane policy, and then was solid on the vaccine and all that all the way through. He told this story. It was in like his newsletter that he writes, which was very interesting to me. Kind of like demonstrated the whole like where trust in the institutions is. So he was at I don't know, I think he's in his 50s. So he was at a doctor's appointment, he said, and his doctor was like, oh, you know, because your age or whatever, you can get the shingles vaccine now. So I'd recommend you get it. It's 87% effective against shingles. And he was basically saying, any time before the last 3 years, I would have just gone, okay, you know, I trust my doctor. If it says, okay, sure, I don't want to get shingles, so I better take this vaccine. But now, he goes, I'm forced to go, well, how did you come up with this number? Is it like the ridiculous way you came up with the COVID vaccine number? So like, no, I'm not going to take that because now I have to go and actually look into this. And that's kind of, I think, where a lot of people are. Like, that's where I am. Yeah. That I would have always assumed that, like, I don't know if my doctor's telling me this. He's done his research. He wouldn't just be telling me this without having looked into it. He knows better than me about this field. So I'll say, now, I never trusted the CDC or, you know what I mean? Like, I always knew government entities were corrupt, but I figured my local doctor would kind of like not just recommend something to me. And that was a big thing that COVID exposed. That, oh, even that guy, well, and I got in arguments with my kid's pediatrician over this, where I had clearly done more research than he had. Like, I knew shit that he didn't know, and he's recommending this to my kids, you know, which was insane. But